everyone, this is Zadrian Smith, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of PETRIe Spotlight TV. Now, today is a very special episode because I'm interviewing two beautiful women who are just like family to me. The amazing actress, Sky Jackson, but we're also speaking to the woman behind the scenes, her mother, Kiya Cole. We'll be starting our interview off speaking to Kiya about how they got to where they are today, then speaking to both ladies together, and finalizing it with an interview with Sky Jackson, who is now transitioning into womanhood at 18 years old. We've had glimpses of you, we've learned about you through Sky's gaze, and I really wanted to just take an opportunity for the audience and for people to get to know you better. So you are a born and bred New Yorker.
Yes.
You love your R&B, you love your music, you love your dancing. So I kind of wanted to know more about your story. I wanted to know just, who was Kiya before Sky? What were your dreams?
Wow.
What were your dreams? What were your aspirations? Who did you want to be? Tell us who Kiya was before Sky came into the picture.
So honestly, like before Sky came in the picture, I always knew that I was a creative soul. I was very intelligent, smart, like book smart, but that was not my passion, like to be like a doctor, nurse, things like that. Me, I was more of a creative. So like my mom, she knew out of her kids at the time, before my brother, he's 10 years younger, so out of her 3 girls, she knew at that time, like I was like the book smart one. Actually, I was supposed to graduate high school a year early. I went on a scholarship program to Maine when I was 15, got to live that whole college life for 6 good weeks. And yeah, so my mom's dream for me, and I'll just start with that. She saw me like going off doing big things. Like she knew I was creative, but I think her hopes were like I would be the first one to go to college, like away to college. Because at that point, like no one in my immediate family had gone away to college. So that was the path that I was on at first. But then honestly, like some childhood traumas kind of like derailed that in a way. And, my mom being a single mom that she was off doing like, just making sure she was putting food on the table for us. So whether that was sometimes working 2 or 3 jobs to do so, I think that she missed like why it was that I was supposed to graduate early to now there was like a major shift to me cutting classes, things like that. And I think it's because she didn't like hone in on what the real problem was, which was like a little bit of childhood trauma. But so because of that, I kind of rebelled and I didn't go away to college right out of high school. I wanted to be the entertainer, like I wanted to dance. Dance was my first love. My mother had us in dance at a young age. That was kind of like the path that the journey that I started to go on was more creative. So I didn't go to college right away. My mother was very disappointed because back then we used to go to like the library to research schools and things like that. So I was going to go to school for broadcasting. And then all of a sudden I just came to her and was like, I'm not ready to go to college, So she was really disappointed, but what could she do? And of course, like every other, mostly minority Black households, like, look, if you ain't going to go away to school, you got to get a job. So I got my first real job. At first it was a clothing store, then I worked at the post office. So anyway, but between that, my dream, like I said, was, so I started to like audition like for music videos, just getting myself out there to kind of like pursue my passion a little bit. But I was also really timid at the same time. So I was really reserved. Like now I'm more of an outgoing Kiya. Back then I was really reserved. So I was really afraid of rejection. So a lot of times I let rejection, the thought of rejection, stop me. Before Sky was born, I get stopped in the street like, oh, you be perfect for this, or you be perfect for this hair magazine, or you be, I was always accosted a lot on the subway, like, oh, you're cute, you should call me up, I have this opportunity for you. But yeah, a lot of the cards that I would get, I would make the phone call. My passion was dance, and I said I could do that for free. That's how much I loved it. I'd be in the clubs at a young age. I'd be in the middle of the dance floor, like battling guys. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that was my thing. Yeah. So that's before Sky came into the picture. It was that, like,
Okay.
me just living my life, even though I grew up on Staten Island, but I did everything in Manhattan.
So then we get to the point where you kind of, like you said, you're pursuing this passion, working at the post office, and then Sky comes into the picture. How
Right.
did Sky change the trajectory for your life and the pursuit of your passions?
At the time, before Sky even came into the picture, you know, I knew I needed to pay bills. So I went and worked at the post office, which, let me just say, I will say that the post office paid my bills lovely. I had great health benefits, you know, a nice like setup, like where my retirement was, but I knew I was not happy. So for 3 years, I said, you know what, I'm going to give myself, excuse me, I said, I'm going to give myself no more than 3 years here, because after the first like year, it was kind of depressing for me, because I did feel suffocated in that, because I felt like I just settled for a job and not pursued what was really in my heart. So I feel like I missed out. Then I met Sky's father at the post office. We both worked there. And then next thing you know, I'm pregnant. He moves in. We lived together for a short amount of time. And it was weird. Like, Sky was in my stomach, and I just had this like, I don't know, call it a sixth sense, but I just had this awareness that, okay, I feel like she's going to do something. I just didn't know what it was, but I felt like she was going to be big. And I didn't know what capacity at that point. I already had her name picked out. I had that picked out since like 1990. I want to either say 96 or 98. I think 1998. And how that came about, like, you know, I used to be around the group Jodeci, and then I'm not Mr. Dalvin, actually his brother Devontae, right. He told me that he named his daughter Sky Blue. Her middle name was Blue. And I was like, oh wow, I love that name. So right. That always stuck, but I just knew I wanted to spell it differently. And so Sky came into the picture, and then, that whole world of getting Sky in, like, you know, there are parents that, or moms, mostly moms, I would say, that try to like live out whatever their dreams are within their kids, throughout their kids. And that was not in my head at all. I think honestly, my mother was trying to live out her failed dreams in me, because she grew up poor and she always wanted to be in entertainment, a ballerina. That's why she put her girls into ballet and things like that. But for me, no, I didn't like, that was not the point for me. But it was weird. I just knew that she would do something big. So when she was about 8 months old, I had an aunt that also worked at the post office with me. Now I'm on year 3, going on year 3, right, of the post office, and I gave myself 3. And my aunt said, you know, I don't know, I think that, you know, I have a good feeling about Sky. She's a cute baby. She's a good baby. She said, why don't you like try to send her pictures into one of them little agencies or something? Like, you never know. And my aunt's sentiment at that time was, you never know, she may end up taking care of you one day. But honestly, that was not my thought process. Right. My thought process was, well, if I do this, hopefully she just makes enough money to go to college.
Another thing that I want to touch on as well is when you said that you kind of felt like your mother was trying to live her dreams through you. How did the relationship with your mother impact the relationship that you were fostering with Sky, starting off from her early ages into her adolescence?
So I'll just say, like, growing up, my mom, you know, she had a childhood where they struggled. She was one of 11 kids. Wow. And they didn't have a lot at all. So my mom, like me growing up, my mother tried to overcompensate with us girls before my brother even came to the picture, with like showering us with things, you know, things all the time. Like, we probably got new things every 2 weeks. You know, my mother would cheat or on her taxes just to get us whatever we wanted, you know. Or Christmas came, they'd be, for me and my sister, who we are a year apart, there'd be 16 gifts each at least for us. We shared a bedroom, but that was all we shared. We shared nothing else. No clothes, no shoes, no bikes, no anything we had. Walkmans, like we had our own separate everything.
Right.
So I always knew that when I had a child, I didn't want that, I didn't want superficial things to replace love. You know what I mean? So like when Sky was born, up until the age that she could understand, like I was always saying I love you, because I mean I didn't really get that growing up. My mother was not that affectionate towards us girls like that in that way, so we missed out on a lot of that, like the nurturing. Like she was a good mother, like she provided great, all of that. But when it came to the emotional side, that was a little hard. So she was very hard on us growing up. So I knew that my emotional side, I wanted to be real vulnerable with my child and not replace the love, the verbal love, the hugs, the kisses with things. Yeah. So Sky growing up, I used to try to teach her about needs and wants. You know what I mean? Like if she wanted something, do you want that or is it a need? Things like that. So that's the one big thing that I know that I tried to change.
With the business side of things, obviously, did you feel like there was a lot of pressure on you because you were making decisions, having to make these decisions for her career in a young age? How did you navigate making sure that the decisions that you were making aligned with what she wanted to do as well? How do you do that, as the mother and the manager in the early days?
Oh, that's a good one because, Sky started so young, right? So when she started young, she didn't have a voice to really express what she wanted or didn't want, So for me, like putting her in at that young age, again, my motivation was just college. So putting her in there, all we knew or all I knew was she was good at it. Like everybody she worked for, the clients that she worked with would always give me feedback and say, oh my gosh, your daughter, like she'd be on set at like 1, 2, 3 years old. And whether it was for the Children's Place, the Gap, wherever, sometimes they would keep her the max that they could. So that would be maybe 6 hours. And they would keep her because she never complained. Sky never complained. So now she doesn't complain, but now she's getting into an age where she has a mind of her own and a voice of her own. So even at 4, and I would say 4 or 5 is when she really started to become vocal. Again, it was something that you could tell she just loved to do. Sky never looked at it as work, even though I would call it work. Oh, she's going to her job today. She has a job today. And Sky didn't see it as work. She saw it for her as playtime,
Was there a balance? Did you make sure that, because I find that especially with kids that become Showtime kids, was there a life outside of that as well? So
yeah, absolutely. Like I tried to do that as best I could, but in a 24-hour day, right? How many hours in that day does your kid have to live besides sleeping, right? Really live in a 24-hour period. So besides her going to school, a lot of times she'd go to school and either I have to pick her up early for a job, because don't get me wrong, when Sky was in the height of her modeling career, especially in New York, she went from Wilhelmina to Ford model. So in the height of her career, Sky was working sometimes 3 jobs a day, and maybe averaging 3 to 4 times a week. Or sometimes she had 3 go-sees. You know what go-sees are. She had 3 go-sees in a day. So we'd be bouncing around. So for me, I never wanted her to feel like she was getting burned out, even at a young age. So like she loved painting. So I made sure I signed her up with the School of Visual Arts. So in New York City, she would do that. She loved, ballet when she was younger. So she did that. She had her friends. I would try to have her have like little sleepovers, whenever we could fit it in, get her to have a sleepover. So I don't feel like compared to kids that are not in the business, I think Sky lived more of a full life because I was trying to overcompensate with, okay, this is her work, but let me squeeze this in, let me squeeze this in. Like, so she lived more of a colorful childhood, you know, because she was doing a little of everything. Because I didn't want to feel guilty about her just feeling like, oh, I'm only an actress, so I'm only on set all the time. And that's my life.
And now that she's 18 years old and you reflect back, I mean, that must be crazy for you. And you can kind of reflect back on her 18 years of life as a parent, as a mother, as her, as, you know, someone who was managing her career. Is there anything that you would do differently?
I don't hold a lot of regrets, especially when it comes to how I feel like I handled things with that industry. The only thing I would say is that I wish I would have done my homework more. Like, okay, so like when Sky first started working, we did hire a separate manager because I didn't know anything at first. But I wish I would have not just like went along for the get along. You know what I mean? Like, I wish I would have done, like, she would have had a corporation years ago. Like, no one ever taught me or told me that. You know what I mean? So there was so much, like, especially like monetarily, that we like lost money-wise, lost so much money because I was not smart enough when it came to the financial part of it. Right. So if I could go back and do anything, I do my homework more on the financial part. But as far as how I raised her in this business, I don't think I have any regrets on anything.